What it is, y'all, it's your old boy Pilkin. I'm coming back today with another Danmachi video. Now, normally I wouldn't cover 7th Zone. It's kind of been here, it's done its thing, and it really hasn't been rhyme nor mystery for a while. But what interests me is lately the 6th anniversary coins have become a major part of accomplishing the 7th Zone. Now, in fairness, those really only become part of the very hard missions. You don't need to beat the EX missions for that to be a thing. But ever since last year, I have basically had a team that I could trust, that I would go in here and that would run this event, and I could auto run it and not only get whatever, rewards are available there, but also the all too important iris that comes every week from 7th Zone. So it really got me thinking, with all the crazy units we've had lately, do we have a team that we can just rely on to go in here and take out 7th Zone? Now, normally I'd build an AoE team, and then I'd build a single target team, and really this is going to be no different. But what's going to be majorly different about this team than any other team I've built before is, simply put, we have units that are so powerful, with so much going on in their builds. I don't think we need to build a single element team. In fact, to test my theory, I've built a team for the current 7th Zones. Now, right now, we have Water Zone and Fire Zone running, which means for Fire Zone we need a Water team, and for Water, we're going to need a Thunder team. So I have built this team right here. Now, in fairness, I don't have Elise or Reveria Max Limit broken, but all these units are pretty new to them. The assists are from all over the place. Some of these are new, some of these are time limited from a while back, but you can use whatever assists that you have at your disposal to whatever units you have at your disposal. So let me kind of break this down on how I imagine this should work. So, number one, I've got this newer Reveria, and basically what she's going to do is when she SAs, she's going to increase SA gauge charge and magic attack 120%. That then gets replicated because we have buff replication on this team, not necessarily through Haruhime like you would think, but I believe it's actually Elise, if I recollect, who actually does the buff replication. Let's see, yeah, status buff plus 2 turns on her extra action. So long as we keep her extra action in play, buff replication will be a thing. Likewise, Reveria, and I believe it's Reveria if I recollect here, will actually do debuff replication. So, see, SA gets charged 33%. She's good there. And it is worth noting she does that on her extra action. That's why we still have Haruhime on the front line. Now, yeah, here we go. Status debuff plus 3 turns. That's going to be really important. We'll keep that replicated as often as we can. It'll just be something that we use her for periodically. Probably once every couple of turns we'll go in, rebuff that, and let it kind of run its course and do its thing. Now, if we ultimately need it. So Reveria is a very poignant unit, and we've actually already seen here why we need Elise, so I'll just run over here to Elise real quick and kind of cover the things she does. So I'm not actually going to, at the moment, SA gauge chart or SA with her, at least for the foreseeable moment, because she gives herself fire attack damage and fire attack damage, 60%? I think she gives herself even more. Yeah, so fast, self magic 100%, which once again we're going to get 120% from the assist here. SA gauge charge 100%, so she's going to give herself a lot of SA charge. She is only 60% fire attack from the looks of this, but I think she'll be fine with that. Plus, I do believe if we ever do it, let her, she'll do fire attack damage if we do let her SA, but I don't think it's going to be super mandatory. I think the 60% will be fine for her. She's going to debuff fire damage, all the good stuff. Basically, she has everything the fire team needs in her kit by herself. Same with this Dark Eyes. Now, the main thing with Dark Eyes here is she's going to debuff magic resistance. Now, notice that everybody is built to run a magic team here. So we've got a big magic buffer and a big magic debuffer. And that then is going to let everybody just kind of do their maximum amount of damage humanly possible. Or unitedly possible. Or whatever they happen to be. But Removes magic agility, dex, and dark resistance buffs. Removes status debuffs, and that's actually really nice because we are going to have a dark resistance buff on our opponent, so that's going to be really good there. And the main thing here is, while normally we'd be a little worried about healing and all that stuff in one of these events, all of these units seem to have really good healing or really good defense, or some of them even have a barrier. So a lot of these units can be really good. Plus, you notice here she has dark attack damage 70%. And as I said, as quickly as we can, we're going to give her 120% magic, so she'll be good there. So, like I said, everybody's just doing really, really, really awesome stuff. Same with this Wind Ryu, who really should need no introduction. Wind resist down 40%. Wind attack damage 80%. Obviously, she's going to get the 120 magic. Just everything you need in one build. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up with the 4 you see in front of you. Haruhime is going to do her SAH charging and her big, resistance buff. Then we're going to bring in Winnie, debuff the single target damage, and then finally we're going to bring in Ryu and just start producing ridiculous amounts of damage. Now, the assists are very specific in this situation because obviously we want to focus on magic. So I've got Hermes here for the magic resistance. I actually have him tied to Eyes, because Eyes is going to remove the dark resistance debuff, or the dark resistance buff. So I think Eyes is going to be a unit that's going to be producing a decent amount of damage, probably more so than some of the other units out there. So I wanted to get Hermes on her because he's got a really good magic buff. Now, very similar here. I actually have Finn. Finn is going to debuff wind and fire resistance. Now, it doesn't really matter that I have him tied to a fire unit, but notice we do have wind and fire here, so I want to get that debuff out. This Loki really should need no introduction. She's going to do 33% SAH charging, counter guard rate, and some nullification, but I basically don't need her or really any of her skills after this. Not that they'd be applicable after this, but really she can kind of rotate in and then rotate out. No big deal. And her magic buff isn't really all that much to talk about. So that brings me to Felice, who's going to be the single target, single target debuff, but technically it's a buff. Anyway, nevertheless, critical rate down 25%, single target damage taken plus 25%. She's really, really, really important. She has an okay magic attack at 500, nothing like anybody else does, but I'm kind of not counting Reveria as a DPS. Maybe she is, especially for the fire zone, but I had to make a choice, and I chose to put her on Reveria over Elise. I just personally think Elise is going to produce a little bit more damage. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see what happens when we get in here. That's kind of what I'm seeing. Now, when it comes to Winnie, her assist is going to be Natsume. Now, this is where we get into the range of units a lot of people probably do not have. She was from a very specific collab. If you don't have her, it's not anything to worry about. The only reason I'm using her is for her water and dark resistance. She does ally strength and magic 10%, but none of that's going to be necessary. As you'll see here in a moment, we're going to get magic 25%. But the water and dark resistance is just going to let the other two units really work to their fullest potential. So if you notice, I have water, dark, fire, and wind on the team. And with Finn, we're getting rid of wind and fire resistance. And with her, we're getting rid of water and dark resistance. Only reason I chose her for this job. Other than that, she's not really doing much for us. But it's just going to be the basic ability to produce as much damage as possible. So the big takeaway from this isn't necessarily a team I have built. What I want you to do is take away a way you could build a team with the units that you have. So, I've got a lot of health. I have a potential amount of healing. I have some barrier. I have, debuffs. I have buffs. I have everything I need. And most of these units, in fact, are Festus are from the current anniversary. But a lot of these units are going to be self-contained. They have the debuffs and buffs and everything that they need, all self-contained. And that's going to allow them to produce just the max amount of damage. Finally, we've got Ryu, and tied to Ryu, I have the Seer, who's going to do magic 20%. I think I said 25 before, it's magic 20%. and light and wind attack damage 15%. Not super important, but it's going to be an extra buff to buff everybody else's magic damage, because everything on this team is about magic, and it's going to buff a little bit of her wind damage. Nobody else who really does light. Remember, Haruhime does, but she's rotating out. So by the time she comes in, it's going to be kind of a moot point. The main thing was that magic buff. Everybody's going to get that 20% magic buff, and that's going to help out a lot. So the question becomes, could you build this team with strength? Absolutely you could. You 100% could build this as a strength team. You could build this with any elements you want. You could build this all the way around. What you need to do is not follow my units. Follow my methodology. Debuff the elements you're using. Looking at Natsume and Finn right there. Debuff the elements you're using. Buff either the strength or magic, whichever one you're going for. If you're building an AoE, put an AoE assist on there. Looking at you, Felice over there. If you're doing single target assist. And then when it comes to Loki's about the only one that can be universal, but when it comes to like Hermes over there that's tied to the eyes unit, he's just there to debuff the magic resistance. And obviously if you were building a strength team, you would debuff strength resistance. So there's just a lot of ways you could build a team to suit your needs. Now, going into Memoria, I had to make some interesting choices here. I chose to just focus on magic attack for all of the turns. Essentially, the reason that I'm doing this is rather than focusing on one element and letting one element really kind of dominate, I'm hoping for an early essay, and I'm hoping for often essays. So I've kind of focused on giving everybody everything that I can give them. So magic attack is being maximized here for just the purpose of getting the maximum amount of damage out. Now, because do remember, nobody on this team for this event is going to have an advantageous element. Like, everybody's going to be at a disadvantage for their element. So what we're going to try to do is overpower that as much as humanly possible. Finally, SA gets charged, because SA gets charged is going to be huge in this. So let's give this a shot. Now, bearing in mind, this is a single target event, not an AoE. I'm not going to be focusing on AoE attacks. I'm going to be focusing on skill 3s for single targets. But we're going to start off with everybody's buff skill. So buff skill, buff skill. Let's see, Haruhime is going to do her skill 1. And then Elise is going to do her buff skill. Most of these units are 1, 2, 3 builds. So it's like skill 1, skill 2, then skill 3. There are exceptions to that, but we'll kind of cover that as we move along here. So, in fact, Reveria kind of immediately introduces one of those. So her first skill is kind of her biggest, baddest skill, but it also introduces her extra actions here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start here with her skill 3. The reason I'm going to do that is it introduces a all in single target debuff, which you already have, but also that water resistance debuff to produce a little bit of extra damage. Now, notice it also does status buff plus 3 turns. We're going to already have status buff plus 2 turns on the extra actions for, I believe, Elise, but it's just going to let us get a little bit more out there. Now, so we're going to kind of focus on that with her. Do bear in mind, she's going to do status debuffs plus 3 turns here on turn 2, and I want to get all the debuffs out before we start doing that. So, skill 3 with Reveria. We're going to do a skill 2 here. Yeah. So, skill 1, skill 2 with Eyes. Winnie is going to do her skill 2, and then Elise is going to do her skill 2. Pretty straightforward stuff. Like I said, nothing really crazy. Okay. Now, normally I would turn the attacks off here. No, I'm sorry, the icons off to see how much damage we're producing, but I really want to pay close attention to the debuffs in play. They're going to be really critical to this. So, we're going to go on to single targets for most everybody, with the exception of Reveria, who's going to move on to her skill 2. Now, remember, her extra action is still in play, so we're good there. So, we're going to do her skill 2. Replicate debuffs. You'll probably see what Reveria is going to be doing. It's pretty obvious, but if you're missing the point, I'll cover it here in just a moment. So, skill 2, everybody else skill 3, with the exception of Ryu, who literally just dropped in. She's going to do her skill 1. So, 2, 3, 1, 3. Pretty straightforward stuff. Those single target attacks are going to be paramount basically on this turn. That's how we're going to produce the vast majority of our damage. Okay? So, things look pretty good here. Things are looking pretty good, but we want to S-clear this. So we're really going to need to work hard on that. So with Reveria, remember, she's going to go back to do her skill 1. Also, her extra actions are running out, so we really do need to do skill 1 to get those extra actions back in play. Eyes, let's see, her extra actions are 2 turns for Howl of Insanity, so we can go ahead and do her skill 3 again. Ryu is going to go ahead and do her skill 2 because she just dropped into the game. And when it comes to the extra action here for Elise, she's also 2 turns, so she's going to do her skill 3. Okay? There we go. Notice all the buffs, all the debuffs, like just the wall of skills and abilities here. That is what I'm talking about. These are basically what are going to help us produce damage in this event. So, let's see. Are we actually producing damage yet? Doesn't look like we're producing crazy damage. And that is unfortunate. But this is where we start to really like hone in on what our goal is here. So, Reveria is going to go ahead and do her SA. Remember, that's going to give her her bunch of her extra actions. That is also going to go ahead and give everybody 44% SA gauge charging. It's just a really important skill to get off. And Howl of Insanity will need to be rebuffed. Yep. Boom. Ryu can go on and do her skill 3. And Elise will do her skill 1 because she'll need to rebuff that too. So SA. I'm actually going to SA with her as well. I forgot to mention that because she's going to do magic resist down 60%. That's going to help everybody produce damage. Then skill 3 and skill 1. So we need to keep a good eye on all those extra actions. And from this point on, you should see us producing a good amount of damage. This is where damage really starts taking shape. Here we go. Nice. Nice. Now we have extra SA gauge charging. We've got extra. We've got debuff in play on the magic attack. We've got buffs in play. Everybody's getting extra magic attack. Let's just double check this. So yeah, magic attack 100%. Everyone else should have magic attack 120. I don't know why she doesn't. Oh no, yeah, I forgot completely. She does hers on her extra action. So we're gonna go ahead and do her skill 3. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do her skill 2 on this one. I'm going to do skill 2. And I'm going to explain why. Her extra action isn't actually going to take place until essentially after she does her attack. So we did 1, 3, 2. This time we're going to do 1, 2, 3. And the reason being is because after we do 2, when we do the debuff replication, then she's going to do her extra action. Everybody's going to get that magic attack. So we want to rebuff that magic attack. We want to replicate that magic attack on the next turn. If we do it on this turn, we're not really going to get that. So the wise maneuver here is 1, 2, 3 this time. So skill 2. She should be good. Let's see. Oh no, Howl of Insanity still has 1 turn left, so we need to go ahead and do her skill 1. Let's see. Ryu is 2 turns left on Noble Heart. So we'll go do that. We'll do her skill 3 one more time. And she just rebuffed that, so we'll go do her skill 3. So, skill 2, skill 1, skill 3, skill 3. And once again, I do need to emphasize, not every team is going to be built the same, or not every team is going to work the same. So you really want to focus in on the abilities of your team, of your units. You know, what are your units capable of? What are they looking like when it comes to the actual fight here? So, we're producing damage, but we're not producing as much damage as I'd really hoped. But you know what? We'll continue on. Let's just see what happens here. So, with Reveria, now we're going to do her skill 3. And with Eyes, let's see, we just did Howl of Insanity. So we're going to go back to do her skill 3. And then everyone else here, she's going to need to rebuff Noble Heart. And Elise should be good for her skill 3. So we're going to do skill 3, 3, 1, 3. It's a strange build. It's a weird build. But it's the build that we are going with. And the build seems to be really paying off. There we go. So let's just check debuffs and make sure everything's still in place. So endurance down 60%. Magic resist down 60%. Critical and penetration down 40%. Guard rate down 40%. Water resist down 40%. AoE down 30%. Strength and magic down 60%. Fire resistance down 40%. Physical resistance down 40%. 1 unit resistance down 30%. Wind attribute down 40%. Agility and dex down 60%. And dark attribute down 40% before we even get to the assists. Now, do note that this unit has raised its resistances on all the other elements. So, you know, water and, yeah. Basically, earth and, not water. Earth and light are up 110 because I really haven't debuffed them. We do have some resistance, 45% to 55% on everything else, but I think we're going to be okay. I think that's fine. I think we can still beat this. He's down to just over 2/3 health. We're on turn 8. Maybe once we get our second set of essays, we'll go ahead and do Ryu and Elise and see where we're at. So, on this turn, we got 2 turns left in Exalted Blaze, so we'll go ahead and do, let's see, did we do debuff replication? We did do debuff, we did buff replication last turn. Everybody has magic attack, 120% for 8 stinking turns. So we'll go back to doing her single target attack. I think that'll be perfect. Okay. Extra action here, Howl of Insanity for 3 turns, so we'll go ahead and do that. Let's see, Noble Heart for 3 turns, so we'll go ahead and do that. And Spark Ignition for 2 turns, so we'll go ahead and do that. So literally now everybody's just doing their big single target attacks. From this point on, we are almost exclusively offense. Now we will need to keep an eye on debuffs and buffs, make sure they're not running out, but I can't imagine that they're going to be anywhere near the danger zone of running out. Okay. Sadly, I was really hoping we get a double SA on turn 9. But we do not. And I want to say it's turn 12 that we actually have to beat to get the S clear on this bad boy. So there may have been an option there for me to save up to do a quad here. That might have actually been a thing. But I made my choices. I'm where I'm at. So we're just going to continue on. So buffs look good. Debuffs look good. We do probably need to do another debuff replication. I'll go ahead and do skill 2 again to get a little bit of debuff replication. Let's see. Howl of Insanity is good for 1 more turn. So skill 3. Let's see. Noble Heart is good for 3 more turns. And I believe we have to rebuff this. Yeah, Spark Ignition needs to be rebuffed on this turn. All right, now actually my question becomes, nope, she does not get extra actions. So, yes. So we will need to rebuff Spark Ignition. So we'll do that. So 2, 3, 3, 1. Let's go. Looking good, looking very, very good. Notice this, he can't even produce damage. That may actually be a problem. I may have to reduce some of my resistances because a lot of times when it comes to counters, those counters can hit hard and hit fast. So I may actually at some point decide I want to take some of this resistance down. Best way I can do that is instead of using the stun anklets that I am using, I don't think I mentioned that at the beginning, and I probably should have, but every 7th zone does require stun anklets. So if I didn't mention it at the beginning, make sure you're using those. But I may need to take the level 90s and actually replace them with level 60s. It'd be an interesting test. And I don't want to say that's going to make a huge difference here, but it actually might. So I'm going to be a little cautious about that. Okay. Howl of Insanity will need to be rebuffed, and I'm going to go ahead and do this here. So let's give Wind Magic Attack 120%. Actually, you know what? Let's save that. Noble Heart for 2 turns, so we'll go ahead and do skill 3 here. She's got 4 turns with Spark Ignition. We'll do skill 3 here. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to save up for a triple. I don't think she doesn't really get a lot here on her extra action. So we'll do that, and we'll save up for a triple. I think a triple with Reveria, being a good single target attack unit with a lot of, basically a lot of potential under her belt for damage. I think a triple here on turn 11 would be really solid. So let's take a look. Yeah, so we're down to about, what, a little more than a third health. Buffs are looking great. Debuffs aren't looking bad either. Let's double check buffs on Ryu. She's the only one. Yeah, buffs are fantastic. We don't have to worry about buffs. So we'll go ahead and do an SA here. She's going to do her single target attack. Yeah, 4 turns left on that, so single target attack. And these two are going to SA. And the main reason we're going to do that is because, number one, they give themselves a little bit of buff. They do a few things here, but this, wind magic attack damage plus 120% per each self magic buff skill, that's going to hit hard. Plus hers, Ultra Fire magic attack, 60% per each self magic buff and SAH charge buff, which we have both of those, and she gives herself fire attack damage 100%. These are going to hit big time. So let's see. Reveria does not quite a mil. Not quite a mil. Ryu does 2.5 mil. And I want to emphasize 2.5 mil with all those resistances in play is a huge deal. 1.2 mil. So if Elise was max limit broken, she'd probably be doing closer to that 2.5 number. Let's see what happens here. I'm curious if we can wipe this opponent out on the next turn. We're really, really, really close. And I'm thinking, honestly, Elise being +4, Elise being +3 and Reveria being +4 might just be the biggest difference. So I'm just going to do single targets here. I think we'll be good to just do single targets and wipe this opponent out. Maybe. Hopefully. Pretty darn close. Okay. We are at the state now where, as I said before, counters would have made all the difference. How much health does he have? 800,000. If I had counters, this would be a done deal. In fact, I probably could have been a little bit more aggressive early on. Rather than doing some of the buff replication, I probably could have done one more like single target attack with a Reveria or something and gotten that extra damage out. So while we didn't get the S clear, we're so close. So close. It's just either a matter of RNG or just needing one more. Actually, no, I take it back. We still got the S clear because it was within 15 turns. I thought it was within 12. So there you guys go. So I can actually just save. Man, and we did it with a +4 and a +3 on this team. And without getting counters. So honestly, if I was going to go back in, the two things I would do. Number one is I would change out the equipment on this team. I'd give this team like level 60 stun anklets. That way they're taking a little bit more damage and they're actually able to do counters. Counters probably would have made that turn 12 happen. Number two, if I have the option, and I actually do, but I just haven't done it, max limit break everybody in this team. Oh, maybe except for Winnie. Winnie's the only one who probably doesn't need it. But max out all the mainline units on this team, and this would be a done deal. We might even be able to get max limit broken. We might even be able to get a turn 9 with a quad SA out. It's really tough to say, but that's the video. Let me know what you guys thought in the comments down below. Hopefully this gives you guys some clues, ways you can actually build out some really stellar teams. I'm going to save this team. This is my new 7th zone single target go-to, and I'm willing to bet I can even do it AoE with this team, just swapping her out for someone that does AoE resistance and focusing on AoE attacks instead of the single targets. So, let me know what you guys thought. As always, like, comment, share, and happy team building. I'll see you guys on the next one.